we'd like to invite Meryl Ainsman, President of the Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh, and Brian Dunn, the congregant of Tree of Life Synagogue, to share a few of their thoughts with us.
On the morning of October 27th, 2018, I was in Lancaster, PA for my best friend's wedding. As I stepped out of the car to get ready with him, I was flooded with 200 messages from my family. My heart sunk to the deepest place it could as I read the words shooting, Pittsburgh, and finally Tree of Life. I was beyond lucky enough to grow up in this small Jewish community in Pittsburgh. It's a tight-knit one where you know everyone, and you can't step out the door without being warmly greeted by a friend, neighbor, classmate, or even a stranger. Growing up, it always felt like the safest place on earth, and I never in 1,000 years would have suspected otherwise. I also had the privilege of going to Tree of Life growing up. It was a place that offered my family and me community, lifelong friendships, acceptance, and most importantly, love. But in a split second, all of our lives changed forever. In that split second, one man tried to take our community, friendship, acceptance, and love away from us in one of the worst attacks on Jews in the history of the United States. And while we mourn the loss of 11 beautiful souls who left us far too early, something else happened in that split second he didn't anticipate. Those of us still on earth and those that have passed have strongly joined together as one. And it's during this time that I'm not only proud to be from the small Jewish community in Pittsburgh, but most importantly, proud to be a Jew. It's the teachings of love and acceptance my community and our communities that make me proud. Proud to continue our teachings, proud to wear my chai visibly, proud to spread love over hate. As a young person in today's tumultuous climate, I knew I had to do something to spread the teachings of Tikkun Olam that I was so vigorously taught. It seems fortuitous that I worked at a company called NowThis, which strives to tell stories not often seen in media. So I sat down with a fellow Jew, told her everything that was on my mind, and asked if it's something she would be comforted by during this time of anti-Semitism. And without a beat, she said absolutely. So I decided to share my voice with the world. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous to go on camera to expose my most personal feelings during this time. But I knew that even if I impacted one person through my message, then it would all be worth it. And even though I had trepidation and even told my parents not to look at any comments on social media, it became one of the most well-received videos for NowThis. I received messages from all over the world, from people, both Jewish and not, who too were inspired to spread love during this time of hate. And it's these messages and acts that give me hope for a brighter future. When we grow up, we're taught everything we need to know in order to behave in our society, how to interact with people, how to love. And unfortunately, so many people are taught how to hate. So I encourage all of you, go out there and teach those who were told to hate how to love instead. Show your peers that even through the most tumultuous times, that you can still rise above. To treat others with respect regardless of their religion or sexual orientation, ethnicity, or disability. Teach even those that have opposing views as you that you can never hate them because in your hearts you have nothing but love and hope. You have the task of shaping our future, and in doing so, you can get our society to a place where hateful acts like these no longer exist. In doing so, you are making sure that love is so much stronger than hate. Thank you all so much for having me here today. I'm truly excited, thank you, to see the amazing things each and every one of you do. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the mom of a family I was fortunate enough to grow up with in Squirrel Hill and chair of the board to the Jewish Federation of Pittsburgh, Meryl Ainsman.
Thank you. Thank you, kids, and thank you, Brian, and thank you, BBYO, for giving me a chance to tell my story. So imagine standing in your kitchen one rainy Saturday morning in October and hearing dozens and dozens of police cars and their loud sirens streaming past your house and turning to your husband and saying, there's something really serious going on here. And whatever it is, whoever it is, we know them. Imagine a few minutes later hearing a loud banging at your front door and rushing to open it and finding a young man, a stranger wearing a kippah in obvious distress, declaring, there's been a shooting at Tree of Life. I need to call my wife. Imagine being this young man, his name is Dave, on his way to Shabbat services. As he approached the corner of Wilkins and Shady Avenues, just up the street from my house, he encountered a violent shootout at the entrance to Tree of Life Synagogue between police and a madman that had just shot up the synagogue and the people in it. The police yelled to Dave to run as far and as fast as he can, and he ended up randomly on my door. It's about a half a mile away. The shooter was on his way outside to the parked car filled with more guns to go and do more damage somewhere else. Due to the extremely quick response and bravery of the police, they were able to get there in time. Imagine if they didn't. Imagine being one of the first responders encountering him and pushing him back into the building and cornering him in an office on the 3rd floor while he screamed, "All Jews must die," but not before 4 of them were wounded, 2 very seriously. Imagine all of the horrible things that happened that day, most of them truly unimaginable. This was never supposed to happen in Pittsburgh. You've heard from some of the kids on the stage. Squirrel Hill is not that community. Tree of Life is not that community. It's a wonderful community where I've spent almost my entire life. I grew up at Tree of Life. It was my shul for most of my life. And as you just heard up here, it's literally in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Squirrel Hill is a beautiful, leafy enclave in a very urban environment. Squirrel Hill and its immediate surroundings is home to 57% of Pittsburgh's 50,000 Jews. It is a center of Jewish life, but it's also very diverse. There are Christians of all denominations, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, African Americans, Asian Americans, everyone. A study done by the Jewish community of Pittsburgh, conducted in 2017, asked, among many other questions, if people were concerned about anti-Semitism, if they felt it in their daily lives. 84% answered, not at all, or just a little. I was one of those people. It's totally unimaginable that the worst anti-Semitic act in America happened in our neighborhood, in our Tree of Life. However, it's because of the history of diversity, inclusion, tolerance, and long-standing relationships in the entire Pittsburgh community that we've rallied together to support each other. The night of the shootings, there was a vigil in the center of Squirrel Hill, organized by high school students just like you. Thousands showed up and stood outside in the rain, as I sat inside the JCC just yards away with the families of the deceased, who were waiting hour after hour for news of their loved one. The crowd was as diverse as the neighborhood. Everyone just needed to be together. The next night was another vigil for the entire community, planned a few hours after the shootings by leaders of the Federation, the JCC, JFNCS, and other organizations. Again, an overflow crowd, also in the rain. There were local, national, and Israeli politicians present, leaders of many of the national Jewish organizations, thousands of community members, and over 100 clergy representing every religion, denomination, and group in Pittsburgh. One of the speakers, Wasi Muhammad, leader of the Islamic Center in Pittsburgh, stated that the members of his mosque would stand outside, guard outside of our synagogues if we needed, just as we've stood by them in times when they've needed help. The days, weeks, and months since the shooting have been difficult for many in our community. Mental health experts declared that 100% of the residents of Squirrel Hill could be considered victims. 70% will have recovered organically within the first few weeks of the shootings. Of the remaining 30%, there are various degrees of trauma experienced. Clearly, the families of the victims and those who were injured will never be the same. Those who were in the synagogue that day, some narrowly escaping with their lives and witnessing the horrors of that day, will likely live with this experience for the rest of their lives. For the rest of us, there will always be a before and an after of October 27, 2018. In my position at the Federation, I feel so privileged to be in a position where I can actually make a difference to try and help our community to heal. So let's get back to imagining. Imagine a strong and vibrant Jewish community with deep roots and cohesion learning from this horrible experience. Imagine strong and secure facilities where all feel safe and comfortable. Imagine synagogues and agencies and day schools and other Jewish institutions working together as one to help each other recover. Imagine the sports teams of Pittsburgh and even our team's rivals, and our rivals are seriously our rivals, who have worked together to help us recover and reached out to us in turn. Imagine a worldwide community that has shown unbelievable generosity with their prayers, solidarity, Shabbat services, money, and assistance. Imagine a world where each of you, as strong leaders, will be prepared to take on whatever challenges face your communities, your generation, and be able to really make a difference. Imagine a city that is stronger than hate, and you will be imagining the city of Pittsburgh, the neighborhood of Squirrel Hill, and the entire Jewish world. You are our future. Help us to get there.
Meryl, we'd like you to stay on stage with us for a moment. As a leader of the Jewish Federation of Greater Pittsburgh, at the time of this tragedy, you exhibited the kind of leadership that we hope to emulate. We pray that it will be under different circumstances, but because of people like you, we are inspired to deal with life's greatest challenges.
Each year, the membership of AZA and BBG present the BBYO International Stand-Up Award to individuals who represent the values and ideals that motivate us as a movement. We are honored to present this to you for leading our community through crisis and showing us the power of resilience. We are so proud to count your family among the BBYO Global Movements community. Thank you.
Thank you.